Hello and welcome back to Red Fox Classics and the continuing story of this 1969 Mk2 GT6 restoration. Now I've had a bit of a break from bodywork and I've been taking apart lots of gearboxes. I'm up to about 4 now. I still don't have enough parts to make a whole one, so working on that. But I think it's time to get back and do a bit more welding because there's still plenty to do. Now I've decided so I do want to finish the front and the wing and all the wheel arch stuff that we started quite a while back. But first, I think I need to get front valance so I can make sure I'm happy with how the wing fits to the valance before I cut bits off the wing, because it looks like the replacement panel's too long at the front. So, not going to do that just now, but there is some stuff inside the car that needs work.
So you can see there's some holes in the floor. I had a go at this when I was doing something else. I had to go at it with the needle scaler and stuff started to appear. There's also this bit here which is quite battered, so I'm considering having a chunk out of there and replacing that too. And there's some little bits of welding that I didn't quite get to when I was doing the edge of the floor. So, first job is going to be clean that up so we can see what we're dealing with, and then figure out how to make something that looks a bit like that floor. So, let's go on with it. Okay, so it's about as bad as I thought. And what I'm going to do now is use a bit of rust remover over here just to try and get a better idea of what that end looks like, because it looks like I might be able to not go too far up. I'm going to have to, I think, kind of go like along here, over there, and do most of that floor. I'm trying to think if I do it in 2 bits, or, well, multiple bits. So doing that section would be fairly easy because these bends, well, you can make these using bends, so that's quite simple. Just kind of go up there and there. Putting in this U-channel, that's, again, I've done that before, you know, with this bit, so that's doable. It might be easier to put all that together off the car, though. It'd definitely be easier to grind it. Anyway, I'll try and reveal more of what's going on up that end, and then, you know, come up with the next bit of the plan. So this bit I've managed to clean up and flatten out. Well, flatten out enough that I don't want to take it off. Might have another go actually. Just this is where the sort of, I think it was a paint shop related bracket welds on underneath, and they're quite low. Not that it really matters, it is the floor, but it's less mangled now, so I think I might leave it. However, when I managed to get the seatbelt bolt off, I did find this, so that's going to need to come out. Would have been nice if I'd have found it, you know, when I had a bit more access here, but whatever. I did actually try and take the seatbelt bolt out then, but it was not moving, so I've had lots of penetrating oil on it, and I finally managed to get it to shift. Anyway, let's lop this out and see what we get. Right, so that's off. That's flattish now. Obviously, without the plate in the way, I'll be able to get a dolly on either side, so it's quite good. This looks reusable. I'll see better when I've cleaned it up, but I think it was just the sheet metal had gone, really. So, you know, just cut a flat bit out for here, get it popped in. Well, there's that fitting in. So I'm going to get a bit of primer on the edges that are going to be, well, the edge of the inner sill and the edge of that little bit that's going to be under it. Get it welded in. well, I've no idea what we just recorded, if anything. I'm still on backup camera and not sure it's behaving. Anyway, that's in. It's been a bit of a, it's one of them tiny things that takes a lot longer than it should. I had to weld upside down and I find that very difficult with this particular welder. Anyway, I still have my centre punch for where the hole for the seatbelt mount or the seatbelt bolt should go. And I'm just getting the plate cleaned up, and I've got it in some rust removing soak because I happen to have some made up, so I'll do that a bit later. This is looking a bit manky still, not sure. Probably leave that overnight, get it cleaned up, and then work on the main bit of the floor that's flattish, and I can kind of see how I'm going to do and work forward to that. So back on the regular camera with a great big fluffy external microphone, which I think probably is going to be in the shot on top left quite a lot. Got the seatbelt plate cleaned up, needs a bit more, but I drilled some holes in it, so I'm going to weld them up, give it a bit of a blast, and get it welded in. Okay, so that's in. I made sure the whole floor was flat beforehand, and then just screwed it in with the seatbelt bolt. So then that pulls the plate up against where it's supposed to be, and you just weld it in quite easily. So I've been still having to go at this, and it looks like I'm probably going to be able to save the vertical lip of the floor, which would be nice, but we're only going to find out when this is fully cleaned off and checked. And I've been keeping going. It's still a bit lumpy, this, but it's also the floor, but it's not. I don't think I need to cut it out. I'm only going to make it probably more lumpy by trying to weld into it, so let's leave that weld alone. I also figured out I could get that light in, which is quite handy. We do it as well. I don't think it's going to come out on camera. Fantastic moon. Right, so I got the back of the floor, front of the foot. Got the front of the footwell sort of cleaned up. I think I can save that bit at the moment. So I've marked out what I'm going to chop away, and I've got ideas about what I might do. Initially I'm going to try and replicate this corner this channel that turns a corner, and if that doesn't work out, I'm going to make something that's approximately, it's got some strengthening ribs in and what have you. But I'll get that chopped out, and then we'll start seeing what we can do about making something new. So I've got a bit of a plan. First of all, let's try and get an idea of this shape. Suppose that wants to be a more consistent width, even though it's going to get cut away. Still want something like that. Yeah, I think that'll do to start with. So what I'm going to try and do is a variation on hammer forming. So I'll go and get myself a couple of wood blanks cut and see if we can at least make a form to start with, and then go from there. So I'm going to try and do this with a wood metal sandwich. Hopefully going to be able to drill through and bolt it together. I have to have a think about how I can cut this. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do is use the hand jigsaw and selectively remove some of my bolts to allow it to pass. So let's see how that goes. Because it's definitely not come out as a very straight cut. I think it'll probably do. Now, especially this bit, I'm going to go and attack with a file till I've got something parallel-ish, and then see where we go from there. Okay, so that's what we got. It's pretty good on the straight bits, and then our curve is wider than I wanted. But, yeah, I mean, in the end I'm going to be cutting a lot of that edge off anyway, so I'm not too fussed. Got to keep going. Now I'm going to have a go at machining myself something to use with the air hammer. And unashamedly stealing some Make It Custom ideas here, but I'm not sure. I'm going to have to machine steel, and my lathe isn't really happy doing that, so we'll see how that goes. If that doesn't work, I'm going to try doing it with a hammer and see how that turns out. Okay, so I've made this. This is a pointed tip air hammer bit with the end cut off, and then that's a bit of Delrin that I've shaped. I tried to make myself something that I could weld to this that would actually be wider, or as wide as this bit of plastic. But my steel working skills have failed me on the lathe, so I made a big chunk of this, and well, we'll see what happens. I suspect it'll destroy itself, but it might destroy itself slowly enough that we can get one, maybe two goes on this. Got a bit of steel, 1 mil steel. I'll put it in here and then see if this works. Right, so this has sort of worked, but not particularly well, and I think it's because I've got my actual steel that's going to be hammering and transmitting the force is just hammering this bit, and the rest is rebounding. So what I'm going to see if I can find a washer and weld to this, which will then put force on the top face. Push it all down like that, and see if that does anything more useful. Okay, so my washer's not really gone on particularly straight. I've not got anything else right now, so let's try. Right, we're slowly getting somewhere. I've identified several problems. One, I was getting vibration, or rather, all that was happening was my bench was vibrating, because this is 3mm steel, but when you hit it with a hammer, it's got nothing underneath it, so that wasn't helping. So I've got it sat over the edge, which is stronger, and clamped down both sides, because again that wasn't helping. It was just sort of oscillating the whole assembly. And I've also stolen the air hammer off of my needle scaler because it's slightly higher quality, even though it looks identical, but the SGS one just wasn't cutting it. But even with that, it's taking a lot of effort. Oh, the other thing, yeah, I broke the welds on here, so I've had to re-weld it. Aside from that, it is. I am getting the dimple in there. I'm having to keep stopping it coming back because it's taking a lot of effort, and it's not particularly comfortable leaning over an air hammer. We're getting there. But it's worked. Not completely beautifully. It's definitely now a bit twisted, but going to give it that bit. So, I mean, could do better, I think, but I spent a day on that, and it's going to be part of the floor. So, next thing, which I think will be tomorrow's job for me, is start making these, which I know how to do with that, and it should be relatively straightforward. I'm going to kind of join in this piece. Yeah, and keep going. Okay, so I had a tidy up of that last night with a hammer, going around getting it flattish. Now I feel I can work on that as we go because I have cut bits of this off. But, you know, change shape again. So now we need to make the rest of it, or at least this bit. I'm gonna do this a little bit separately because I'm gonna kind of try and make this pattern, attach that, and then fill in this little section. So I need, you know, this bit of metal is probably just the right shape. I've got to cut that bit off, cut down here, and then start trying to fold these lines in.
just see if I got enough clearance on my metal folder where it is to actually be able to do this. Well, there wasn't space. I had to drag it out. Anyway. Okay, so it's a start. At least the first bit meets up alright. Can I do it several more times? It is lining up with the original panel, so well, more or less. So I've only got one more to get in where I really need it to be in exactly the same place, and then these two, because they just need to meet up somewhere with this more curved channel. It's not, you know, perhaps not the straightest, but it will not be a problem. Right, so I've got my channels. This one's not quite in the same place, but it's getting completely replaced, so I decided not to bother doing it again. So I've got to try and get that bit into there. So it's got to continue in that line, couldn't we? Well, I'm increasingly thinking I've left the kind of end of this in the car, but I'm more thinking I'll use this bit rather than the existing floor, just because then I have to make one less join through a channel like that. So it's this end is where I'm aiming to meet up. Let's do that. So this channel, I've tried to line the edge of this new sheet up with that point, because that's where that straight line runs to and then blends into this curve. So then I'll just put this over the top.
is going to be quite difficult to do. But, so what I'm going to need to do, which I've already just done, camera died. Anyway, so that needs to go there. I've lined up as best I can the top edge of the new piece with this corner here, because that's where the line of this pressing extends to. I've laid that over the top and marked this line and then just this line in here. So then this is going to want to go right here. If I can transfer that to the other side, get an idea of I need to cut there, well, right there. So I'm going to need to cut it so that I can get these channels right up to the edge of this pressing, but leave that edge where I can, where it's got to, you know, I've got to join these little bits into the flat bits of this. So I'll roughly cut that out, and then move on from there, I think. Should mean I can lay that over the top in the right place. Ish. Oh, and of course, don't forget, because this curves, I need to cut my pressings here at an angle. I kind of want to be more like that. I'm going to err on the side of caution over here. So that's getting there. Might need a, just need to come down that way a bit. Which you now can't do because it's hitting there, more of a bunch of stuff to trim off. Let's get that sitting in there. But I think I will get on with that and then we'll have a look at it. It's getting a bit closer. Idea will be get that fitted and tacked at least. Then either look at fitting that little bit in, or making this edge. So that is now fitting in there quite well. This, well, let's call it a pressing, meets up here nicely, so I'm just going to be able to weld around that. Here, well, it's a bit more awkward shape, but I've got a bit of a big gap. But I think what I will do is do what I can, and then I'll cut through the edge of this, which I've still got sticking out on the inside, and I'll be able to hammer some of this down and make it meet up, and it'll be fine. So I'm going to get a couple of tacks in here and on from there. Okay, so I've got this ground down. Oh, you can tell it's been welded, but it's blending in alright, really, and as I keep saying, it is the floor pan. And for our important points, which are there and there, it's looking like it's lining up nicely and will fit. So I've got to bend up that, which is going to be that section, and I decided I'm going to try and make it match up with what's in the car. So I'm going to work on getting that fitted in. It's not going to meet up with the going to be a bit on the wonk relative to this, or that pressing that I got in slightly the wrong place, but it's fine, whatever. Yeah, anyway, so once that is done, then it'll be time to try and form that edge to meet up with the inside of the floor pan. So that's in, and all those pressing edges look like they're going to line up all right, which is quite nice. Now I've just got, I think, enough on the edge to bend it around and make the edge of the floor. I'm trying to decide whether I cut into these folds or whether I try and flatten them out without cutting. But that'll be a tomorrow job, because this has been quite a lot of work. Okay, so this is where we are. All this is done and looks like it's going to match up nicely with our existing floor. Now I've got to get this curve on, and it's going to be just enough room to do it, I think. It's kind of like up there, isn't it? And then that, which another question. It's wobbling. Anyway, first step is going to be, given the way these sort of transition into the curve, I'm going to see if I can just flatten them out. Right, so that maintained the shape, which is good. Has bent this up because this metal's going to need to shrink to maintain that flat profile. So I'm going to see if I can continue that along, and then enough to fit that in the jaws of the shrinker and tweak it in to try and flatten it out. Definitely got some deformation in the panel, but it seems to be working. And of course I picked the one where I didn't actually need to do that immediately. So that needs to go all the way to there. Okay, I'm going to keep going similarly to see if I can blend those in, and then yeah, we'll see what it looks like after that. Because if that works, then bending this straightish curve is going to be fairly easy, and bending this less straightish curve, probably doable. Right, so that has worked. It's not taking hugely long. I've had to really lean on the shrinker handle to do this, but flattish. There's possibly a bit more I can do. But I think I'm going to try and make this curve now. Just see how that goes. And I'm going to do that in, well, let's see if my not very good pipe anvil will work to do the straight bit, and then I'm going to have to find something to hit that round. See if I can manage to make it curve over. Okay, so just trying to bend it against the pipe anvil, so just a curved bar. Well, just trapping it in there and trying to bend it. This doesn't work very well because there's no clearance because of the actual folder mechanism. So yeah, I tried to use this as a bit of an anvil. That didn't work either, because it wanted to just bend. You want to bend in a straight line along this line, which is kind of good because it's put the bend really where I want it, but also, yeah, that crease is too much. So remember they've got to. So I'll just put this in some soft jaws in the vise, and I'm going to work work along that corner and see if I can bring it round. If you're not seeing this before, this is just some scrap aluminium, or well, actually new aluminium, but thin aluminium sheet. Stick it in the vise, hammer it over, do the other side, and then you've got some cheap and cheerful soft jaws. Right, so I think I'm at the stage now where it's close enough, and probably the best plan is going to be to fit it on the car, because it's nearly getting quite, because of all the shapes in this, it's getting quite difficult to be able to tell from the old piece. So yeah, I'd best get a bit of a trim so that all the bits that are really in the way are removed. I've got to take off this because it hits the cross member or outrigger. You know, that's hitting the edge of the floor and all that sort of stuff. And then stick it in the footwell and see how it looks. Well, it's not too bad. I think I need to work on that curve still. And obviously it doesn't fit very well at the front still. But you can see my Sharpie lines. That's where I marked from the original piece, and everything is actually lining up kind of as expected, which is awesome. I did end up cutting the end off there because my replacement bit wasn't quite the same length, so when I kind of tried to sit it in, it was just catching on the patch panel end of there. Was kind of pulling underneath that pressing and throwing everything off. So I shall do some more trimming. So I've been going around trimming a bit, fitting, deciding it needed to move, and so on. I've had to make a couple of relief cuts because I just wasn't managing to get the shape. But I think it's fitting. I'm in the right area here now, and that's the hardest bit that I've really been struggling with. So I think that needs a bit of a tweak. So I move that way, and then everything's going to start to fall in place. So I'm going to keep going, but I'm getting there. Okay, so I've got this tacked. My gaps in some places didn't look great, but it's quite a complicated shape. I've still got along there. I've got it tacked. There's a little overlap, so I'm going to slice through the metal and join it up like that. I've got some places where I want to encourage my pressings into a little better alignment because they're not lined up perfectly everywhere. But, you know, a little bit of work with the hammer will do that. And yeah, it's just a bit of an awkward spot to be welding, especially when you start to get round this corner, because, you know, I'm trying to get my arm in there. I might clear out the seat panel of the car and start sitting in there, see if that helps. But yeah, that might be a bit later now, but I'll get on with that. And then we'll have a look once it is welded. Right, so I've just been out for another hour this morning, gradually going around, making sure all my pressing edges meet up. So I've had to hammer and dolly from above and below, and they're all fitting pretty well. This one's still not, that one there's still not great, but you know, it's alright in the grand scheme of things. Obviously my gaps are pretty horrible, so I'm having to use a bit of filler rod, and it's going to require some grinding, but it's in. It's nice and solid now. Still got a long layer to cut through and neaten up and make sure it will butt weld where it's coming along. I'm not sure if I'll bother doing the same thing on the other side. I'm kind of tempted to buy the whole floor pan and use the front of it. I mean, I've proved to myself I can do this, but it's taken, I can't quite remember how much, but you know, we're on multiple hours of work, and this is still not welded. All this grinding is going to be a pain. It's going to need to get welded from underneath as well, sure. Once I finally figured out how I'm going to turn the body over. And while I don't want to, you know, I want to spend as little as possible on this project, which is still a large number, I also don't want to be still doing it in 7 years' time. So anyway, I'm cold, so I'm going in for a break, but I'll keep going, keep chipping away at this. Well, it's in. It's taken quite a lot of welding and grinding and re-welding and finding holes and so on. There's still more grinding to do, but you know, I'm going to give it a break for a moment because just taking ages. I've had troubles at the front, particularly because obviously the metal was quite thin there, so perhaps I should have replaced a bit more, but right now it's in there, it's solid, it looks pretty original. I'm going to make sure I get the holes in the same places. These are not particularly critical, they're the poppers for the carpet, but you know, I've got the original panel, so I can use that placement. And with that, the front of the car is almost done. There's still this little really awkward hole in there to deal with, but otherwise, next thing it's got to be the bonnet, or backwards, and I think I might actually attack this wheel arch next, because it's got the reinforcement plate with the shock top mounts, which is particular to the Rotoflex cars. So the GT6 Mk2, early Mark III, and the late for Tess, and water gets in between the two layers. There's another layer on the back of this, or outside of this wheel arch. Now I have been donated or swapped some spare wheel arches that might help me, but they're also the Tess ones, so they might still be rotting in the same places. Anyway, that's definitely going to be it for this episode. We've got the floor repairs done, or more or less got the floor repairs done. I'll be time to move on to something else. It might be a bit more bodywork. I might get back to some mechanical stuff, because I'm having gearbox is turning into a bit of a saga, so that might not happen very quickly. I'm waiting on some final news on the Herald to come back, so I haven't taken the Spitfire apart yet, which is another job on the list. So yeah, not quite sure what I'm going to be doing next. But there'll be something, there's plenty to do. So thanks everyone for watching. If you've liked it and you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button, because I'm about 300 subscribers away from being able to monetize the channel, which means YouTube will give me a little bit of ad revenue. I'm sure it'll be a pittance, but it'd be nice to have. If you already are subscribed, thank you. Thanks for sticking around, and I will see you next time.